We're ready for our next set of head coach interviews for the 2020 Big Sky Football Virtual Kickoff. I'm joined by Montana head coach Bobby Hauck, Northern Arizona head coach Chris Ball, and Southern Utah head coach Demario Warren. Welcome and thanks for joining me today to talk Big Sky Football. We're going to jump right into our first set of questions. This question is for all of you, but Coach Hauck, we'll start with you. What is the most challenging element of playing in the Big Sky Conference?
I think there's a lot of things that are unique. I think the vast area that the conference covers lends itself to tough travel for people. I also think there's a lot of good players and coaches at the other schools in the league. So that, to me, those are the two biggest challenges.
Coach Warren, what about you?
Yeah, I would agree with Coach Hauck. I think the players on the West Coast, only having the Pac-12, the Mountain West, and the Big Sky, we're getting a very high caliber of FCS level talent at our level. And then, I mean, you look at the coaches in this conference. I mean, you look at Coach Hauck, that's been an FBS head coach. Coach Ball was just recently in a group of 5 as a coordinator. You got Coach Hawkins. You got Jay Hill, which is one of the top coaches in the country right now. It is scheme-wise and is all over the place, and just the knowledge and the talent pool of the players is really difficult to week in and week out to be able to compete with these guys.
Coach Ball.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. You know, we get to our head coaches meeting, and you start looking around the table, and the coaches in our league are unbelievable. And you know, I've known half of them for a long time. I've spent time out here on the West Coast, but from top to bottom. Now you just throw Bo Baldwin in there. Now you start looking at the table with some really, first of all, great men. And are doing it for the right reasons, and great. And I'd have to agree with everybody else. The travel in this league is brutal. You know, to go up and have to play at Montana and Montana State, and even for us to get to Southern Utah is tough. You know, so it's a grind road schedule. It's tough. And, we got a heck of a home field advantage. We were playing at 7,000 feet in a dome. You know, it's tough to come here and play. So those two factors, I agree with both those guys. It's a tough place. The road games are tough. The coaching's great. And then, Demario said it is the recruiting. You know, we're the only scholarship FCS program west of the mountain, west of the Rockies. So, I mean, we got a great group. We got a great recruiting base to choose from. So I think that helps put our league at the top.
Absolutely. Now, Coach Hauck, although the narrative around the league will be how does Montana replace Dalton Sneed and Dante Olson, internally it seems you have a lot of confidence in guys like quarterback Cam Humphrey and the linebacker Jace Lewis. Where does that confidence come from?
How do you know what's going on internally?
This is a media question, so that's their question. But they seem
hey, we're real. I'm kidding, of course. You can come to any meeting you want, anytime. But we feel good about our team. We feel that we've really established a good depth at every position. We feel like we've made improvements at all the positions where we needed to. Certainly when you have great players, I mean, the Buchanan Award winner going out and Dante Olson, and then you're starting quarterback who was a great player before he got injured last year. When you have those guys going out the door, those are big holes to fill, but that's college football. That's what Demario has to do it, and Chris has to do it, and every other coach in our league has to do it every year. And I think that that's the nature of a good program, is you're able to retool every offseason and go out and compete and win.
Coach Warren, what does Landon Misa mean to your offense?
He's invaluable. He missed the beginning of last season, and our offense struggled because of it. And when he came back, our production went way up. But just his intelligence to be able to play different positions, a slot and outside, being able to set the tone for our receivers to block, and just he's reliable. He's a guy that's sure-handed. He's always going to do the job, and he's going to get under the skin of the opponent's defender. So he sets the standard for our offense, and I think as he goes, our offense will grow.
Now, Coach Ball, how has the quarterback room shaped up as you look to name a starter and replace Case Cookus?
Well, obviously losing Case, he's a great player here. Sort of embarrassing that he's such a great quarterback and ended up being 4-8, but he was a great player, great person. He's going to have an opportunity to make it at the next level. Those guys are hard to replace. Those guys just don't come around all the time. But we've got one thing I've learned over the years is that we're going to be good at quarterback. Anytime you've got a quarterback, you got a chance to win, and that's one position that we're going to oversign at. We've got two really good candidates for that position, really three. Jeff Widener, kid from Apple Valley, who is very talented, and we got a transfer from Oklahoma State, Keontae Woodtee, who we redshirting last year, 6'5", 220-pound kid that can throw, and probably one of the smartest football players I've ever been around. So we're excited about those two. And then you got Heath D. Miller, who's been here for a few years, very athletic, can run the football, and throw, and he's actually towards the end of the season was playing really good playing at a high level, and so we've got three to pick from. It's going to be a heck of a battle. It's going to be fun to watch. All three of them are very talented. And we got a freshman coming in, Nico Hain from Phoenix, Sunny Slope High School. It's very talented also. So we've got some guys to pick from. Hopefully we can run the ball better than we did last year. That's sort of the plan, to take the pressure off of them a little bit. But we feel good about our quarterback situation.
Now, Coach Houck, another question for you. You've talked about the importance of depth over the years. Now that you are in year 3 coming back, do you feel this team is getting to where you want it depth-wise?
Well, first, I want to tell you, I was taking notes that Chris gave us some coaching 101 there. I was taking notes on having a good quarterback and running the ball. That's great stuff. Philosophically, we're aligned. I need to go work for him. But,
just trying to do it like you guys do it up there.
I thought that when we first got here, we were scrambling to try to get a competitive starting lineup on the field, which is certainly first and foremost. But when we've been good around here, we've had good depth. When we've had attrition and guys have gone down, the man coming in and picking up the flag has been capable, and in some cases exceeded as he developed the guy who was in front of him. So it's really important, in my opinion, especially at this level, that we could potentially all play a lot of games. If you're playing in the national championship game, you're going to play 15 or 16 games depending on the year, and that really takes a tremendous physical toll on your team. So you have to have depth, and you have to be able to overcome setbacks in the injury area.
Absolutely. Coach Warren, why are road games so hard to win in the Big Sky Conference?
I think Coach Houck mentioned one of the reasons, just the travel, being able to be able to travel to some of these places is a little bit more difficult than other conferences. But at the same time, I think it's more of just how competitive these teams are. I mean, you look at NAU last year, we played at home and was able to squeak by. The week before, they should have beat the champs on the road. They kind of collapsed with like a minute left, but they should have beat Sac State. So the level of the team is so close that just getting out of your rhythm of being at home and having to travel on the road, I think is just enough to give that home team an advantage in our conference. And so when you got 1 through 13, that's a really tough competition each week. I think being at home just gives you that little.
Now, Coach Ball, fans love a good rivalry game, and Coach Warren and the Thunderbirds are yours. Talk about the extra hype that game brings, especially towards the end of the season.
It's a big deal because they're right up the road. They recruit Arizona, we recruit. Recruit a lot of the same guys, and it's the closest team, obviously. I know it hasn't been going on for as long as some of the rivalries have in our conference. but it's a big deal to us, really big deal. So when I came in here, when we were changing our culture and installing our culture, I talked about the importance of that game. And the fun game tomorrow does a great job up there. He's a great football coach and does a great job with his kids and his program. And but it's a big deal to us, our staff and our players, and that's something we emphasize all the time.
All right, now a COVID-related question for all of you. Are there any strategies or tactics you had to use for the atypical COVID off season that will become permanent fixtures of your program? Coach Warren, we can start with you on that one.
Yeah, there are some things that I've learned over the last couple months that really changed my perspective on how we're going to do things. I think filming installs were huge. Having the coaches be able to have that feedback for themselves to go back and watch themselves, and then have the players be able to watch it even after the meetings go. So I love filming the installs. I thought that was something that we can do moving forward and could cut out some time that we can use during the week. So I thought that was great, and we're going to probably use that moving forward.
Coach Hauk, what about for your program?
Well, I would piggyback on what Demario said there a little bit. I'll be real intrigued to see how much of it they retain. I don't think our players do very well in online education. The online classes, generally, I don't think they learn much. So it'll be interesting to see what they retain. Maybe I'll change my opinion on that, but I don't think so. And then, the idea that the coronavirus is going away is erroneous. It's with us. So there are certain things we're going to have to continue to do and probably be more aware when guys aren't feeling well and trying to extract them from the mix until we know what's wrong with them.
Absolutely. Coach Ball?
Yeah, it's been, it was interesting. The minute we shut things down, I put together a schedule, and staff-wise, we got a lot done as far as X and O stuff and recruiting. We spend about 4 hours a day on recruiting, spend a lot of time on the phone, texting, evaluating tape. One thing you don't get, you don't get to see the kids, obviously, but it's we've spent a lot of time on that. We're way ahead recruiting-wise, which is going to help us when it's time to go out and know exactly where to go. Part of it, I'm a little bit like Bobby. I'm curious to see how they retain. I don't know if usually you put something in, you go out and you practice. We all three of us, I guarantee, we've been through install 1, install 2, install 3, install 4, install 5, install 6, all on Zoom. We haven't been able to go out and walk through it. And you get on Zoom, the first thing in Zoom, people are moving around, you're trying to get them, see if they're sitting up, seeing if they're taking notes. It'll be interesting. We've talked a lot of football with them, and I'm curious to see how much they retain. But some things Zoom too is that you can have Zoom. I'm comfortable having Zoom staff meetings now. If people are out on the road, you have a staff meeting, let's do it on Zoom. If you get in the off season and you don't want everybody to come in the office, let's have a Zoom meeting in the morning. You got Friday off. Things are things that I'm comfortable with now. So we'll see moving forward what happens. Really anxious to get out there and see.
Absolutely. Definitely some pros and cons there. Now, Coach Warren, what has been the biggest difference the last 2 seasons at Southern Utah after winning the 2017 Big Sky title, and what do you need to do to get back to that level?
Yeah, it all falls on the coach's shoulders, the head coach's shoulders, and building a great roster with depth, kind of what Coach Hauk talked about earlier, having a great culture. That's all conducive to winning. I think that's something that we have to get back to and build it the right way. I think youth was another big issue. When we were in 2017, we had 35 seniors. We haven't had more than 16 seniors since then. And so our junior class is finally up to the numbers that we like, and the guys that are actually playing on the field. They had a tough freshman year and had a tough sophomore year, but now those guys are juniors. And so I think we're back on the brink of having a strong roster with a great culture that's conducive to winning. And so I'm excited to get back to that point where we have a senior and junior rated roster that can be competitive versus these great teams.
Coach Hauk, what in your mind is the step your team needs to make to not only repeat last year's success, but improve upon that?
Well, that's the word. We just need to continue to improve. We had a couple games where we didn't perform very well. Otherwise, we were pretty good. And we won 10 games for the first time in a long time around here. I don't know if it was, 8 or 9 years or something like that. So I think we're on track. It's about working hard, being diligent with your preparation, both in season and out of season, and getting better. And we want to play our best football when we get to the month of November. And we did that a couple of times, and then we didn't do it a couple of times. So play good in all three phases and get her going.
There you go. Coach Ball, with year one under your belt, what are your expectations for year two?
Well, to get better. We feel good. We got a lot of kids coming back on both sides of the ball. We've improved our positions, the positions that needed to be improved through recruiting, a few transfers. But, you got to show up every day and make yourself better. And at the end of the day, we talk to our kids about it, is that when your feet hit that floor in the morning, you decide on who you're going to be. And it's just a choice. And if you can just make yourself a little bit better each day, then we're going to be just fine. It's a grind. A season's a grind. And the coach said, you want to be. And something I've learned is, you only got 63 scholarships. It's not like you got 85. And something you get a couple guys hurt. Like we did towards the end of the season, and they haven't really been in the middle of the season. It killed. I feel good about our day. We got to continue to work. We got to be better job in the weight room. We got to continue to get stronger. And I like where we're at. I love this team. I like what we're doing. I like their attitude through this whole virus thing. But at the end of the day, it's about work. Work ethic. And there's only one way to be great at anything. That's hard work.
Absolutely. Now, another question for all of you, being defensive guys, can you explain the challenge the league is facing defensively with such an influx of projected new starters at QB1 within the Big Sky? Coach Warren, we'll start with you.
To be honest, you got Cookus out, Mayer out, Kevin Thompson, Snead. There's going to be a lot of new quarterbacks, but to prepare for those four, we're pretty hard. So I know there's going to be great quarterbacks. We're in the Big Sky. That's what we do. But I don't think it's going to be more challenging than it has been in the last 13 years I've been in the Big Sky. Every season's new. And like I said, we had some great quarterbacks just leave the conference. So we'll see how these young guys come in and how well they perform.
Coach Hauk, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, being a defensive player coach is tough. Chris is most recently a defensive coordinator. You're an endangered species, man. You don't unpack your bags generally, because the rules are slanted towards the offense, and the way things are done, everything's in the offense's favor. So you have to be tough-minded to coach and play defense, and you have to be able to overcome adversity. And to me, that's the critical element. When you give up a play, then you need to go back and make the next one. And, the way college football is set up rule-wise now, yards don't matter. It's about getting one more point than the other team. And so keep them out of the end zone and try to give your offense a chance to score. Coach
Ball.
Yeah, we've the same philosophy at Memphis and Arizona State is, as a defensive guy and looking at your defense, you get caught up in the yardage. Like Bobby said, the rules are so slanted anymore towards the offense. You're going to drive yourself crazy. You're going to worry about yards. So you've got to be great in the red zone defensively. You've got to be great on third down, and then you've got to create a lot of takeaways. And if you can do that, you're getting the ball back for your offense, eliminating scores in the red zone, you'll be fine. But if you sit around and like we used to, we had yardage goals and those now I just laugh because that's a joke. We want to do 150 yards, 150 yards passing. No way, that's not happening anymore. Just because where the game is Those are things that we stress defensively. And this conference isn't like it used to be either. A lot of more people in this league are running the football, and it's becoming a very physical conference. And you have to run the football to be able to help your defense also. So I think people are seeing that. And you see a lot of defensive guys that are head coaches in our league, are seeing that, hey, you want to help your defense, run the football. And this conference is quickly becoming a very, very physical conference.
Now, Coach Warren, the Big Sky continues to produce top talent in the FCS. What makes Big Sky schools so attractive?
Again, I think being on the West Coast helps, but just there's excellent universities within our conference. I mean, there's some great universities, great locations, and so it's great to play football at our universities. And then there's just great football players. Again, if you want to go to the next level, I think the Big Sky has consistently put out guys different programs because there's so many guys that you compete against. And so we have the respect of the NFL as a conference from team to team. And then one thing I love to do in the off season is just study these guys. And we have some great football minds. And so being able to pull up Montana's film or pull up NAU's film and see what they're doing and why they're successful and what kind of schemes they're doing. It's fun. I mean, there's great coaches around the country, but I feel like we have some of the best here in the Big Sky, and it's fun to be able to watch those guys year in and year out and see what they come up with next.
Coach Houck, another question for you. What will it take for a Big Sky team to overtake North Dakota State?
Well, that's certainly multifaceted. They have a lot of good, I've known the last 3 head coaches at North Dakota State really well, and we've actually shared some things over the years. So I have a good insight into how they're doing things. And I mean, if you would start, we need to fund our programs like they're funding theirs. I mean, they're building facilities, they're paying full cost of attendance. They've got their guys there. They've got staffing, they've got nutrition. They've got all the things that all the big-time football programs have. So it starts with that, and then you've got to keep recruiting and developing your players. And you don't overcome something like that overnight. But my brother coaches at Philadelphia, and I had a chance to visit with Carson Wentz a couple of years ago just for a few minutes, and I said, "We're coming after your guys," and he said, "Good luck with that." And he was right, but I had to remind him that there wasn't too many years ago we were ahead of them.
There you go. Now, our next set of questions will be related to COVID-19. We did touch on that a little bit more, or a little bit previously, but we'll head into that a little bit more. And we'll be getting into some social injustice questions as well. So with respect to COVID-19, how has it impacted your programs, and what specifically are the biggest challenges towards keeping your players and coaches safe and healthy throughout the season? Coach Warren, we'll start with you.
I think just as a coach in general, one of your biggest goals is to try to bring everybody together. You got 100+ players. You have a staff of 10 to 20, depending on where you're at. And so you're always thinking of, how do we bring everybody together? How do we get everybody in the same room? How do we build this camaraderie that's so important to win football games? And with COVID going on, it changes everything. I mean, you're trying to figure out how can you get everything that you need to get done to be able to be successful in football, but keep everybody separated. And so I think that's a huge impact that we've had, just trying to figure out ways that we can get all the work we need to get done, but also keep as many guys separated as possible and limit the exposure of spreading the disease more than as much as we can.
Coach Ball, what about your program?
First and foremost, obviously, and all of us agree on this, is our health and safety of our players. I think the hardest part of this whole thing is not being together, obviously, but is getting straight answers. What's real, what isn't real. Everybody's an expert now. It's tough to plan when you don't really know. So the perfect scenario, as football coaches, we're always talking about worry about the stuff that you can control. We talk about red light, green light, and the green light stuff, We can control our attitude, our effort, our energy, our confidence. You know, we can't control the red light stuff. We can't control this virus stuff. We can't control the media. We can't control the fans. You know, we can't control the officials. We can't control the weather. So why worry about it? So we've moved forward. I feel like we're accomplishing some things, but we're not doing it together. It made it tough, made it really tough. So, you know, as a coach, one of the best things about our profession is our players. You know, getting to deal with our players and be around them and help them accomplish the goals that they have, and haven't been able to do that. So that's been really tough. I think we've gotten as much out of this as you can. We're working in groups of 10 right now. Hopefully we can increase that here in a week or so. But our kids are working. I've done a lot of meetings with our leadership council on Zoom. Our coaches have done a great job of communicating. I think that's probably the biggest thing that we've done. One of the best things that we've done is communicated with our guys daily. So I think we're all on the same page. It's just there's a lot of unknown. You know, there's a lot of unknown, and that's probably what makes it harder than anything, is just not knowing what's going to happen and trying to plan for it.
Right. Now, Coach Houck, the biggest challenge is towards keeping your players and coaches safe, and how COVID-19 has affected your program.
Well, the good news is we're finding out is the coronavirus isn't lethal for people our players' age, so they don't worry about it too much, and you know, getting back together and playing football certainly is probably not going to put them at great risk. What I have seen is the separation they've experienced over the last few months, particularly this spring, has been disastrous for their mental health. It's just been awful for them. They're suffering mentally from it, and we need to get them back together. And, you know, like I said earlier, the coronavirus isn't going anyplace, and half measures don't work. So my opinion is we either go or we don't go. We shut the country down, and which I don't think is feasible financially, personally. And then the other side of it is we go or we don't go. If you're uncomfortable, don't play, don't coach, don't go to the games. If you're comfortable, go, let's roll.
All right, now another question for all of you. Between the pandemic and the fight for racial equality, what kind of conversations have you had with your team and everything that's happened in 2020 so far? Coach Warren, we'll start with you.
The biggest thing for me is just understanding the pandemic. This has never happened before, and so people are going to react in different ways. And so you have to be sympathetic to how people are reacting to it, understand where they're coming from, and be able to support them. And then as far as the racial justice thing, I think it goes along the same lines of understanding and educating people on there's not just one reason why people are fighting. There's not one topic that you can put your finger on that this is why this is going on. And so educating them about all the different things that are going around the country and all the injustices that people are fighting for, and to understand that just because you are a part of a group or you support something, there's a bunch of individuals within that support group, and actually taking the time to break those groups apart and understand what those people are all about. And so being in Southern Utah, having Black players, having white players with Democrat and Republican backgrounds, it's important to understand just because you're a Democrat or Republican, there's a lot of common ground that you can stand on. And we're going to start actually a unity group just to try to figure out what are some of these big issues that create so much anger for certain people, and then finding out and educating them, say, look, there's a lot more common ground than you guys would think. And so we're all humans, we're all Americans. And so being able to understand them, where they're coming from, being able to tell them that we support them and that we're there if they need to vent or they need to talk to somebody, and then just educating them on how they can make a difference, like voting and different topics like that. So it's been interesting for sure. But I think supporting and understanding our players is the biggest thing that we can do.
Absolutely. Coach Ball?
You know, we've had some, as a staff and as on Zoom meetings, we've had some great conversations. You know, I think, you know, and I tell a story. I tell the players, I said, I've been coaching for 37 years. and every 3 or 4 years we have, and it sort of goes away. Okay, and I think we have made a commitment to continue the discussions and educate, educate them on the true leaders, Martin Luther King, Muhammad Ali, the Rosa Parks, people that the leaders talk about. Let's get uncomfortable and talk about. Let's have the kid from Stacy Chuck talk about what it's like in South LA, South Central LA, and then have the kid from Boulder Creek talk about what his life's like, so we all understand it. But you know, this has been said numerous of times. If society was like a football locker room, we wouldn't have these problems. We would not have these problems. But we as coaches deal with it. We're around it every day. We're around black kids, we're around white kids, we're from different socioeconomic backgrounds, different parts of the country, and it works. It works. You get outside of our world, and there are some issues. And I think we're not going to solve those issues, but we can at least educate our players for when they go out in the world that they can deal with these things the right way. And but we're going to keep it alive. We're going to keep it alive, and we're going to have some uncomfortable conversations in camp. But that's how you learn. And so we're committed to this. Talk to the players. We got an itinerary for it. We got an outline for it. We're going to break up in groups. We have different groups. We're going to do a lot of things. We're going to keep it alive and hopefully educate our players, and that can go out in the community and make a difference, you know, the right way.
That's great. Now, Coach Houck, what kind of conversations have you had with your team?
Well, we talked to our team and within our staff extensively, both in larger and smaller groups. And, you know, a couple of things, and I'm going to second mostly what Chris and Demario said, but we're trying to educate our players on how to be strong, positive leaders for their generation. And strong and positive are two key words in that. We also want to educate them on where they're getting their information, whether it's accurate. And then we also want them to be stand-up people when they see some other person in their sphere of influence doing something wrong, is to call them on it. And really, if they're doing something right, call them on that too and let them know. But I'm a real firm believer that, well, first of all, everybody in this day and age seems to have an opinion, and they also seem to think we want to hear it. And I think opinions are not worth a whole bunch. Actions speak. And so, as Chris said, we're going to follow people's actions and try to lead through example in our program.
Now, one last question in relation to this before we move on to our Twitter questions. How have you supported your African-American athletes and let them have a voice in this important time? Coach Warren, we can start with you on that one.
Yeah, I've had individual conversations with guys that are protesting. I protested myself here in Cedar City and had a really good experience. But just reaching out to guys that I see that are protesting and make sure that they know that they have my support and they're not worried about being on our team, and then trying to educate them to make sure that they're making correct decisions when they're out there, and to make sure they're not doing anything that would put themselves at jeopardy. And then talking with guys on the phone, guys have called me and just talked to me about just my perspective. And so I've had our conversations with a couple guys of everything about defunding the police, and having a conversation around that, and talking about like what some of these terms mean, and again, trying to educate them. And so I think the biggest thing that I do is make sure that the players know I support them and that I'm there for them if they need to talk. And I'm here, and I try to educate myself as much as I can on some of these terms and some of these topics that are going on, so I can just give them what I know, and then they can make their own decision about how they believe, which side of the fence they want to support. And so I think it's just being there for them and really, again, educating them how they can make a difference is what we've done. And again, reaching out to every single one of them to make sure that they know that I'm here if they need to talk.
Coach Houck, what about you? How have you supported your African-American athletes and let them have a voice in this important time?
Well, we support all our athletes, not just our Black kids. We love them all equally, and we've just tried to educate them on the right way to do things.
Coach Ball?
A lot of conversations, a lot of listening, and then backing and supporting them. And supporting them, and when I talk about supporting them, educating them on the right way to do things. And but a lot of listening, and just say, hey, I'm here for you. We love our players, black, white, green, yellow, whatever. We love our players, and we're here to make a difference in their lives. And this is a great learning opportunity for us as coaches. Great opportunity to educate them. And they know we're here for them. They know we care about them. And but we've got to listen. A lot of people shouting right now. Nobody's listening. So listen and communicate and build that relation. Continue to build that relationship and let them know that we do support them when we get back.
It's definitely important. So now it is time to answer some questions from Big Sky football fans on Twitter. Up first, Coach Houck, this question came from ZG for Real. He said, I know Coach Houck.
That's an odd name.
Well,
whose parents named their kids ZG for Real?
I think that's the Twitter name.
Oh, I gotcha.
Yes. He said, I know Coach Houck only looks forward, so I won't ask about last year, but how do you shift the balance of power back to Missoula from Bozeman?
Done. It's already done.
All right, mic drop. Anything else you want to add to that, or that's it?
No, we need to win that game. They kicked our ass last year, and we're not pleased about it.
All right, Coach Ball, your question comes from Dawson McPeak. Who on the team do you think looks the most like an actual lumberjack?
Dawson. Dawson looks more like a lumberjack more than anybody. Yes. He's got a great beard.
Okay, there we go.
It's all about the beard.
Coach Warren, your question comes from Bryson Verne. What do you listen to on bus rides to games?
Usually audiobooks, to be honest. Those are some long trips, so I try to listen to whatever audiobook I'm on. So audiobook, if I'm listening to music, I'm Big Sean or some R&B to kind of be relaxing. So.
And then one last question for all of you from Big Sky Commish. What's the best coaching advice you've ever received? Coach Houck, we'll start with you.
When my mother told me I should be going to law school rather than get into coaching.
Okay, well, look at you now. So
yeah, look at me now. Yeah, I'm looking at a phone talking to people instead of in person. I don't know. The best advice would probably be, as a young coach, work, and shut up.
There we go. Coach Ball.
Oh, man. I grew up in a coach's family. When I decided to be a coach, I was like Bobby, and my mom said, "Are you kidding me? Are you absolutely kidding me?" But probably, be yourself. Be yourself. Don't try to be somebody else. Be yourself.
Coach Warren, what about you? Best coaching advice you've ever received?
I think Coach Ball actually said it, and just control the things you can control and do the best job that you can. I think if you focus on your current job, where you're at, I think you got the best opportunity to be successful. If you're worried about other things, then you're going to stress yourself out for no reason.
There you have it. Thank you, Coaches Ball, Houck, and Warren, for joining us on the Big Sky Football Virtual Kickoff. It's always a pleasure.